First proper video for the channel, and already it's gonna be quite the doozy. And controversial. As 2026 continues, I can't help but notice just how bad most people's political takes are. It's clear that they don't really read anything about the subject, nor do they have any sort of desire to read about the subject, and that especially applies to geopolitics. But for this video, I want to stick with domestic politics. One thing's for sure, people can't even define what citizen means. The word citizen means a lot more than I live here. Considering we live in a democratic republic, only the citizens are and should be able to vote, and Aristotle's definition of a citizen is applicable to such. In Book 3 of Aristotle's Politics, on page 53, he writes, "He who has the power to take part in the deliberative and judicial administration of any state is said by us to be a citizen of that state, and, speaking generally, a state is a body of citizens sufficing for the purposes of life." This line does not diminish blood and soil at all. The fact that the masses believe in the nonsense that America is an idea is telling enough that they're unable to grasp basic political concepts such as citizenship or nation. I say this because people would find this definition to be rather contentious. Let me put it to you like this. When the regime changes, citizenship does not because of blood ties. They have a stake in the success of the state. This means that a random immigrant who just moved here should not be able to vote or influence the political system. This also means that political lobbying for the immigrant's country should not be a thing. And for the latter part, I wonder which immigrants love doing that for their countries. Citizens themselves are a community, which again goes back to blood ties, and they are the majority of a nation. Before Clown World took over everything, foreigners who moved to a new country were not citizens, they were residents. They did not have privileges that citizens could have. As a matter of fact, you were expected to be on your best behavior because you represented your group. If you had the opportunity to move from a poor country to a rich first world country, you would learn how to behave real fast, because you don't want to abuse the generosity of the people providing you with a new home. But because we live in Clown World, that's not how things work anymore. Instead, we have decided to adopt a bullshit equality stance in regards to who is a citizen and who isn't, and it metastasized to the point where anybody can be a citizen. In America, everybody has an equal opportunity to be a citizen. We need to give them an equal chance so they could all contribute. Aristotle would heavily disagree with this assertion that both the left and the right spout. He writes in page 55, "Like the sailor, the citizen is a member of a community. Now sailors have different functions. For one of them is a rower, another a pilot, a third a lookout man, a fourth is described by some similar term, and while the precise definition of each individual's virtue applies exclusively to him, there is, at the same time, a common definition applicable to them all, for they all have of them a common object, which is safety navigation. Similarly, one citizen differs from another, but the salvation of the community is the common business of them all." Now, I'm an American, so I have a feeling a lot of my countrymen are just gonna scream at me right now for even suggesting that we're not equal. The reason why I say this is that the citizens of today believe in tabula rasa, otherwise known as the blank slate, which clouds their judgment on who should have power and who should not. Both the left and the right want to give power to foreigners who have no stake in the game. For the left, it's illegal immigration and DEI. For the right, it's various legal immigration programs like H-1B visas. Citizens are not equal by God's design for us. What makes the masses think foreigners are anything like them? And if you ask me, assimilation is largely a myth. Also, why should every citizen participate in politics if such horrible ideas are consistently thought up on both sides? There are way too many people in positions of power they should not be in. They are not meant to be in those positions in the first place. In a democracy, everyone is supposed to do their part, and democracy in itself screws up with that. By giving the masses disorientating power like voting, they become less proficient in their craft, and become divided by the nature of voting where they are forced to pick a side. And to somewhat repeat myself, the masses elect people who are just as dumb as they are. There's a reason why I'm a monarchist here, people. Something else that caught my eye while I was reading through book 3 is that Aristotle makes the distinction between a virtuous man and a virtuous citizen, as they have two different responsibilities. And the distinction between peasant and aristocrat exists for a reason, despite some very small overlaps between being a virtuous man and a virtuous citizen. There's supposed to be division of labor, just like in the home, so there must be proper division of labor between citizens and rulers. In the US, the masses believe themselves to be capable of choosing who to rule over them. But the fact that there are low information voters in the first place, no thanks to our ruling class, whom are the majority of voters, tells me that they are unfit to be choosing anyone to rule over them. The masses, or as Aristotle calls them, the many, are capable of judging things, but those things need to not pose any consequences to themselves. He writes in page 66, "There is a similar combination of qualities in good men, who differ from any individual of the many, as the beautiful are said to differ from those who are not beautiful, and works of art from realities, because in them the scattered elements are combined, although if taken separately, the eye of one person, or some other feature in another person, would be fairer than in the picture." Whether this principle can apply to every democracy and to all bodies of men is not clear. Or rather, by heaven, in some cases it is impossible of application. For the argument would equally hold about brutes, and wherein, it will be asked, do some men differ from brutes? These lanes exist for a reason, and a good ruler, a good man in this case, would not want a farmer meddling in the duties of a postman. He is a farmer for a reason. The same applies to democracy and politics. The masses are meant to be doing their tasks, which actually help keep society afloat. Politics is a high IQ pursuit, which if you look at any IQ bell curve, many do not have. Let's be real here. High IQ in itself is a largely genetic differentiator, and are the types of people who truly change society for the better if they are virtuous, and for worse if they are not. The low IQ masses, basically people who have 100 IQ points or less, keep on showing why they should not have any sort of political responsibility via the things they do and post on social media. And trust me, if you've seen what the average person posts on Twitter, you'll understand my point. In any other era of history, children of the masses would not engage in discussion of politics, let alone participate them as they do now via protest. But now, minors on Twitter are able to make fools of themselves and destroy their lives because of that. I'm personally of the stance that you have to be 18 to use any sort of social media, and that should be codified into law. Getting back to my main point here, on the left, you have too many people vote for things that are way outside the nation and poison to inject the country with, such as the LGBT madness, and on the right, you have people vote for populists who refuse to use any kind of power to solve problems, thus continuing chaos, and are more focused on appeasing a certain nation in the Middle East. Wonder who that could be. And people think this changes every election cycle. I learned my lesson, but I do want to ask a very important question for this video. What do you, as in the masses, want the vote for? I'll even help you out with this by providing the wrong answer. I want to make a change for the country. If you ask me, that's an incredibly vague answer that does not answer the question. Instead, it opens up a giant can of worms. If you want to see why, try me. Throughout Aristotle's book, he likes to use this word a lot too, constitution. So let's see how he defines it. On page 59, he writes, "An arrangement of magistracies in a state, especially of the highest of all. The government is everywhere sovereign in the state, and the Constitution is, in fact, the government." It sounds pretty straightforward if you ask me, and the best arrangement of these magistracies is top-down. Now, Aristotle does go into further detail about what he means by this definition 2 pages later, where he talks about wealth and how it impacts the few and the many. At that point, people are just participating in a shadow oligarchy. The masses do not see this, and likely never will. So allow me to play this video from the Broken Crown in its entirety. Don't worry, it's only a minute long. You'll understand the picture after the fact. go check out the Broken Crown podcast, created by Aristocratic Utensil and Aiden Paladin. It's a damn good podcast, if you ask me. Let's go back to asking some very real questions. What benefits do the masses gain from being able to choose an oligarch who could theoretically have no stake in the country, all on a bunch of promises that would never be fulfilled? At this current moment in time, a lot of right-wing parties are just not fulfilling any of the promises they made, whether it's the Republicans in America or the AfD in Germany. Because of all the L's that I've been seeing as of late, I would argue that people are way too impulsive, which is a trait of low IQ, and because of that, they latch on to the first populist message they hear, not doing any sort of background check on the people saying the message. A lot of my countrymen would just start coping and saying, but monarchy, my rights, we'd lose my rights. But that could not be further from the truth. The citizens gain the most benefits from a king who automatically has high stakes in the success of the nation and is thus populist by his nature without giving the citizens free rein to drive the kingdom into collapse. Another important aspect is that the king has blood ties to the country he's ruling and thus automatically has stake in the survival of his people. After all, a king's primary purpose is to serve his people, not line up his own pockets in comparison to an oligarch or president, where they are more focused on exactly that. A king would use the riches in his coffers to help his people. As an Orthodox Christian, I notice this certain aspect about our society very much. My countrymen have made democracy a false idol. Let me explain. The masses are blinded by false choice and idolize democracy to the point of it being a religion. Political parties by their nature and purpose are supposed to galvanize the citizens against each other to prevent things from being done. But the masses eat that shit up like they do with team sports. Who are y'all voting for in the upcoming midterms? Baal or Moloch? Ultimately, Book 3 of Aristotle's Politics can be summarized as, the masses are unfit to be engaging in politics. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my royal duties.